I have to admire Harry Dent's work, especially his work surrounding demographics in the aging baby boom generation, and that demographic is coming to maturity now. They're getting older. Their spending habits are going to change. He's done an awful lot of work. He knows when people are going to buy certain things, when they're going to sell things. Just his timing and his charting is par excellence. And he's been forecasting deflation for a long time. Now, during my video here, I'm going to play a audio clip from Harry Dent. And I agree with Harry Dent on an awful lot of issues about what's happening with deflation. How right now the Federal Reserve has been ever since 2008, they've been fighting off deflation. Deflation's almost like a fire. If you know anything about fires, is they can spring out of control so fast when they hit a certain heat level. They call it a flash point. When firefighters are going inside a building, some stuff, they're terrified of what they call a flash fire that can come back at them. I don't know specifically exactly what their name for it is, but what happens is the building fills with smoke, and the smoke gets to a certain point of heat where the smoke is almost like a gas rather than a it becomes combustible, the smoke itself. And the smoke actually flashes into a flame, and it comes roaring through the building. The smoke itself, actually, it hits a certain point of gas inside the smoke, and it flashes up, and it comes and it catches firemen unawares, this actual phenomenon. The deflation is like that. It can come out of nowhere really fast, like a flaming fire. It can consume. They call it a deflationary spiral. It's kind of almost like a tornado spiral, sucking everything in, like a vortex sucks everything into a black hole. And he's right about that. They've been fighting off this deflation, and the natural inclination of the economy is to go into this deflationary spiral. And this is what they've been fighting off. And so I happen to agree with Harry on an awful lot of points, and in fact he can see this deflation coming. And in fact we're heading head first toward a deflationary spike. And when it hits, it's going to look an awful lot like Harry Dent was right all along. I'm going to tell you, when this deflation actually comes in hard and starts to really hit hard, punch hard. But, and there's a big but here, and in the audio clip I'm going to play for you of Harry in this audio clip acknowledges the but that I'm going to say right now. What I'm going to say. He acknowledges it. He sees it and he acknowledges it. That what he's missing is the government's reaction to deflation. And every time the deflation gets worse, the government is going to react with a heavier hand to try to quash the deflation. The reason why Ben Bernanke, the former Federal Reserve Chairman, got the name Helicopter Ben was he did a speech, and he talked about deflation in the speech. And he said, if we have to, he said, I'll personally go up in a helicopter and have $100 bills printed, and I will dump them out the window of the helicopter to stop deflation. And this is where they coined the term helicopter money, from this. So, they will do whatever they have to do to stop deflation. Now, I want you to hear Harry, in his own words, admit that he never expected them to do as much as they did after 2008. That he never expected them to create that much money and to dump it into the system to try to stop the natural occurring deflationary period that was going to come. Now, this is what Harry's missing. And so this big debate about whether it's going to be deflation or inflation is solved right here. It's all solved by what the government's reaction is going to be. Now, if you can figure out what the government is going to do ahead of time, then you'll know whether it's going to be hyperinflation or if it's going to be deflation, what's coming. ahead of time, because the crash is definitely coming. We cannot keep going on this hockey stick straight up with debt without a crash coming. So the crash is coming. We all know that the crash is coming. Everybody knows the crash is coming. Anybody that is really listening to the real truth of what's really going on out there knows that the debt has gone exponential, and that there's no solving for it, and that the stock market's in a hyper bubble. Everybody knows that. That really knows what's going on. Now, a lot of people have their head in the sand and are listening to the mainstream media, and they're saying we're in a recovery. Blah, it's stupid to even listen to them. This imaginary recovery. Anybody that knows what they're knowing knows we're heading into a crisis. And the big question is, will it be deflationary or hyperinflationary? Now, getting back to what I was saying, what they're missing is the government's reaction. Now, if you can figure out what the government's going to do ahead of time, then you'll know whether it's going to be inflation or if it's going to be deflation. Well, you have to look at the government's track record. Now, in this little clip I got from Harry here, that I'm going to play for you toward the end of my video, Harry is talking about what the government did last time. Now, an awful good predictor of what the government's going to do next time is by looking at what they did last time. That's a good predictor. And Harry himself admitted that he never saw it coming, what they did last time. He admits it in this clip. And he admits that they did far more than he ever expected them to do. What's to prevent them from doing far more again this next time than he ever expects? And if they do, they're going to bring on a hyperinflation. Simple as that. So, Harry Dent is right about an awful lot of things. The man is a charting genius. But he's missing one thing. Just one thing is all that he's missing. He's missing the government's reaction to the oncoming crisis. So when the crisis first happens, it's going to be exactly like Harry said it's going to be. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be exactly like he said. But what he's missing is he's missing how the government's going to respond to this. Now, he could be right. There is a chance that the government will put their hands up and say, oh, well, deflation is here. We're just going to let it go. And we're just going to let the dollar go to the moon, and we're just going to let everything sink. When we have the tool to create money, and we could solve this situation to a certain degree and bring everything up out of the deflation, we're just going to sit back and let it happen, though. Do you really think that's the way it's going to go? Because that's what they would have to do to bring on a deflation, to keep the deflation. I mean, to keep it in place, and to keep it getting worse. They would have to sit back and not do nothing when they have the ability to create money. No, they're not going to do that. Of course what they're going to do is they're going to do the same as they did last time. They're going to print to infinity. And when they do that, this time, it's going to be all over but the mopping up. So listen, here's what Harry's got to say on it. And he admits that they did more than he ever thought that they would do last time. So my question is, what's preventing them from doing it all over again this time, except bigger, bolder, brighter, and better? I think that's the position that I'm thinking that they're going to do when it hits next time. And I think an awful lot of others are in on the same idea as I am. They believe that that's what's going to happen. And it's going to create, if not a hyperinflation, it's going to create a profoundly strong inflationary period that like we've never seen before. When they do have to go back to quantitative easing, when they have to do helicopter money and drop the interest rates back down again, all three. And what do you think is going to happen to the price of precious metals when they do that? Oh, I already know. Get yours while you still can, before the boom comes down. But the thing about it is When this first starts, it's going to start deflationary. Now, you got to remember that, though. And so don't go out there and purchase some precious metals. And when this little deflationary spike hits, you get scared, you get chicken, because you see the price dropping on them, and you get weak hands and you let them go. Don't do that. Because the price just could, when this deflation hits, the price just could drop some. Now, this is a warning about that. Because that's the tendency of deflation, is to bring prices down on everything across the board. Gasoline, food, everything. When the real deflation hits. When a real deflation hits. And this could be a real deflation. This could be a real margin call on everything. Prices drop. And so don't get scared and drop your positions. If you're going to do it, if that does happen, and I'm saying there's a remote chance it could happen that way, buy more. Defy the odds. Buy more. When the price goes down, buy more. Look at it as a buying opportunity instead. Because on the other side of this, they're going to come in strong, the Fed is, and they're going to print up all that new money. There's not a chance they're going to let the deflation continue to the point where it tears everything apart. Because Helicopter Ben, he's already told you what their mandate is and what they're going to do ahead of time. And they don't think any different than Helicopter Ben. Underneath the surface, Janet Yellen is one of the biggest doves out there. Under the surface. You know? So listen, thank you very much for listening. Like and subscribe. And here's Harry. Bye-bye.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right about this. I mean, I knew that the central banks were going to stimulate the economy after 2008, 2009. I would have never forecast $12 trillion and growing of free money printed around the world by central banks to offset the natural deflation and deleveraging of debt and to prevent it from happening, which is very cowardly and very short-term thinking. I mean, ask any drug addict. What do? They think about the short term. I get high again, I'm fine. I'll worry about, detoxing or dying in the long term. That's what central banks are doing. This is disgusting, but it's what is happening. And it has been greater than either I or even the most liberal economists like Paul Krugman would have even thought of happening back in 2008-9. We would have thought this would have been a shorter term thing, but it is happening. So I've come to the simple conclusion that central banks have doubled down again and again on printing money, lower and zero and negative interest rates. And by the way, if zero interest rates were not enough to restart the global economy, you have to go to negative? I mean, this is such a desperation move. But we're just saying that, yes, this has gone longer than even I would have expected, but it's getting very stretched. You have to note that the Chinese stock bubble just burst 50% late last year. And